All right, hello guys. Little Shire music for you. You know, we need the good vibes for this stream. But yeah. Hi Matthew, how are you? And no worries, you know, real life stuff takes precedent. Hope all your health stuff's going well. Hi Ghost, how are you? Doing a reread of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings after Halloween. Sounds like a great time. I personally I like to read those books about every single year. I watch probably the Lord of the Rings films at least once a year, more than likely. I've already watched, I think, The Fellowship of the Ring like 3 times this year. I'm probably going to watch it in theaters. There's a possibility I watch it in theaters 2 times this weekend. We'll see, though. But yeah, we'll see. I just realized the episode name, The Queen Who Ever Was, is such a weird title. I agree. I think it's a very weird title. Hi, Dvorlin. How are you? How are you? But if you guys have any questions, we're just doing a laid back stream. We're just doing a nice little Q&A. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare this stream, really, so I thought we'll just do something pretty casual, you know, because I just had a busy day today. Had to do some stuff for school. And then I went to see one of my high school teachers that was a pretty big influence in my life. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I read The Hobbit every year. This will be the first time I've read The Lord of the Rings since like before the pandemic. Well, you know, hopefully you get back into it. I personally love the Lord of the Rings books, especially the first one. I talk about that all the time. I rave about, you know, I rave a lot about how much I like the first book. Oh God, we're getting some Bracken racism in the chat. Oh boy. Don't know about that one. I personally, I wish the Blackwoods and Brackens conflict was a little bit more nuanced in the book, but can't hate on them too much. Hi, random stuff. How are you? Also, hi, Ruckus. How are you? How are you going to cover Rings Grease? So I plan, again, this depends on how good or bad the show is, but I plan to do a live stream on Fridays because the episodes, I believe, drop on Thursday. It's going to be a little weird because they're dropping the first 3 episodes, I believe, on Thursday or tomorrow, which is really weird to me. I don't know why they're dropping the first 3 altogether, but I will be covering them kind of all in a live stream on my second channel. So if you've not subscribed to my second channel, if you want to hear about Rings of Power, head over to my other channel. It's called Eric Reviews. It also should be linked. It's pretty much linked in all of my videos and also on my main channel page. Not sure about live stream descriptions, but it'll be on there. I'll probably do a video talking about the episodes if I find it enjoyable enough to make content about it. But we'll see, because I also plan on doing some football content. I have a couple videos. One video is actually scheduled to come out, I think, 7 o'clock on my football channel. But, yeah. The reviews either glaze it or hate it. Yeah, I mean, I think Rings of Power is weird because I have no expectation going into the second season, right? I think the season 1 was so bad that it can't be as bad as season 1. And so we'll see. I mean, I don't expect it to follow the book or the lore at all. I have completely taken myself away from actually caring about if they stay to the book because it's just not the same story anymore. My hope for Rings of Power Season 2 is that it can at least be entertaining and or have a coherent story. Because the first season, it was not entertaining to watch. It was not... I don't even know. There's not much I can say positive about the first season outside of it looked good. The acting wasn't incredibly good. All the things that I praise House of the Dragon on, even though I hate some of the stuff they did with the writing, they have that really done well. Rings of Power does not. Rings of Power is not great at that. Fuck, marry, kill with Cersei, Lysa, and Alicent. Marry Alicent. I guess fuck Cersei and kill Lysa. Lysa poisoned her husband, so I don't know. Cersei also, I guess, tried to kill her husband, but some would say Robert had it coming given how he treated her. I don't know. Yeah, Ruckus, we'll have to see. I don't know. I always forget that you're also live on Twitch as well. Yeah, I do too, to be honest. I kind of The problem with it is I can't really use the multi-stream chat because it doesn't really like load right on Streamlabs. So I pretty much just only respond to YouTube chat, which is just like, what's the point of going on Twitch then? But it's like, it's just advertisement for the YouTube. Blackwood or Bracken? I mean, I like the Blackwoods more than the Brackens, but I just wish there was more nuance between them. Please, no more slow-mo horse riding scenes. Yeah, I agree, Norson. Those were really bad in season 1. Do you think they skipped claiming Sheepstealer because of episode cuts, or they're holding the door open? No. So, Dvorlin, the way I look at that is I think that in the original 10 episodes, that Sheepstealer was supposed to be claimed in episode 9. I think that's where it looks like, because based upon where all the stories went, because if you look at a lot of the different plots of season 2, not a lot of them truly like conclude in this season, right? Like if you think about Jace and his issues with the dragon seeds, for instance, that doesn't really conclude in this season. It's going to conclude in the next season. So I think it's one of those just cases that because we didn't have 10 episodes, we didn't get the conclusion of Nettles, or not the Nettles, but the Reyna arc. But that would be my interpretation of it. The common consensus, even amongst people that did enjoy this new season, is that Sauron is decent. That's the thing, though, Matthew Stewart. I think one of the better performances in season 1, one of the only characters I found interesting in season 1 was Sauron. I think the actor who plays Sauron does a pretty good job. So we'll have to see. I still think I'm going to have to see what they do for, like, how they go about Sauron doing the Anatar plot. I'll be interested to see, like, how they do it, but we'll see. You excited for the fantasy draft this week? I am, ditto. I might stream the fantasy draft. I'm not sure though. I'm thinking about streaming it on my like football channel. But yeah, I'm excited. I really like fantasy football. We'll see how it goes this year. I hope I get a lot of my guys I had from last year, just because I like staying loyal to my guys. But we'll see. Yeah, Dvorlin, I still have like some hope that season 3 of House Dragon can be good, and even Rings of Power, I think it can improve, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Did you play the Game of Thrones Telltale games? I never played any of the Telltale games, but I did like watch playthroughs of people playing those games. My problem with the Telltale games is your decisions, especially in like the later ones, like the Game of Thrones one, don't matter. Like they just don't really matter. Your decisions are just like, it's pointless. The same outcome more or less happens, just maybe it's slightly different. Probably the thing I loathe the most about Rings is Galadriel's characterization and the god-awful relationship she might have with Sauron. The Twitter stands eat that shit up, though, or shippers. Yeah, I just don't like Galadriel as a character at all. I think that the problem is, I don't know if it's the actress who plays Galadriel and she overacted in the first season, or that's what they wanted the character to do. Either way, their depiction of Galadriel in season 1 was just horrible. A completely unlikable character, had almost no redeeming qualities whatsoever, was nothing like the Galadriel of either the Tolkien lore or of Peter Jackson's movies. So, yeah, I don't know what they were kind of doing with that character. Do you think releasing 3 episodes of Rings of Power is an admission of defeat or supreme confidence? Mats, here's how I look at it. They did the same thing for season 1 where they released 2 episodes. And the way I look at it is I think they are insecure that if they just released 1 or 2 episodes, that maybe people wouldn't be as interested. So they wanted to release 3 of them so that, you know, you're maybe into the story quicker. Like that to me sounds like they are not as like confident about it, right? Like House of the Dragon, it made sense to release 1 episode a week because you're supremely confident in your product and it is a really great show. Rings of Power has the opposite, right? Rings of Power is in the depths of hell right now. Like in terms of what people think about the show from season 1, it has to earn us back into season 2. And so I think releasing a lot of episodes is to try and get people back into the show. Hi, Chrissy. How are you? Yeah, I agree. The actor was good. The writing was just so bad. Agreed. Fucking up the order that the rings were made was just nonsensical. I agreed. I mean, I agree. And here's the other issue, right? It's said that the elven rings were not tampered by Sauron, but yet in the show, they have Sauron basically make the rings for them, right? Like, Celebrimbor is supposed to be like the greatest craftsman ever, right? Or like up there, right? Not ever, maybe, but up there. And he just basically gets talked down to by Sauron on how to make all these things exactly correctly, and then Celebrimbor doesn't question that. That's just very weird to me. Hi, Fizzle. How are you? Hi, Radical. How are you? Thank you for stopping in. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see the first stage stuff. I don't know. It'd be cool to see like the Morgoth stuff. I agree. Star Wars Outlaws. Glad you like it. I still don't know much about the game, but yeah. I saw a review for Rings Season 2 saying it fixes some mistakes from Season 1. All right, that'll be interesting. That is very interesting, Norson. That doesn't surprise me, though. Amazon just did not do really good at all with Season 1. The media surrounding it, the actual quality of the show just was not very good. Oh, Radical? I did not know that. I did not know that they released 3 episodes. So maybe just take what I said and throw it out the window. That's just something they do. I find that really stupid, in my opinion. Just based upon the fact that you're making it to where your show is going to run shorter. You're not going to keep people as engaged for longer. Like House of the Dragon, for instance, you have 1 episode each week so that the excitement for your show is drawn out longer over a period of like 2 months or like 2.5 months, I guess. But I don't know. I do think it's really weird that shows drop like 3 episodes at a time. Where do you think Blackfire actually is? At Illyrio's Mans with the Golden Company or somewhere else? I think it has to be with Illyrio. It can't be with the Golden Company. If it was with the Golden Company, they would have given it to young Griff already. I think, but this is the problem I have with the Sword Blackfire, is I don't know why you wouldn't give Blackfire to young Griff already. Because if you wanted to show a sign of legitimacy for young Griff, maybe you would give him Aegon the Conqueror's sword. That would make a lot of sense. Just back up his legitimacy, right? He comes with the Golden Company. He comes with Blackfire. He comes with John Connington. I don't know. I think Blackfire is so weird to me because I think the logical answer would be Illyrio, but I don't know. I also have issues with that as well. You think the Gollum movie will be bad? I don't know. Joey, I think it'll probably be good because I think Peter Jackson has a heavy like involvement in it. I think it should be fine. Agreed. Celebrimbor does not seem like he's having a good time in Season 2. I hope they get the rights for the Silmarillion eventually. If it's a movie trilogy with the right people working on it. This is what I never understood, Radical. If you're going to do a show on, a certain book or a certain lore, why wouldn't you get the rights to then cover that material? Like, why would you do a Rings of Power Season 2 if you don't even have the rights to the works? That's so weird to me. That's really weird. I also don't understand. I just don't understand why not do something like, the fall of Arnor, like the Witch King and that whole plot. Or there's just so many more like shows that are much easier to do, in my opinion, than what they're trying to do without having also the Silmarillion. I don't know. I just find it weird. Did you cancel your Max subscription? I won't renew until Hedge Knight. No, I got to finish The Sopranos and then I'm probably gonna cancel it. But I'm almost done. I'm on episode like 12 or 13 of the last season. I got about 8 episodes, I think, left. Matt, I think they may kind of dumb it down a little bit, make it not as graphic, but I do think we will see, his death and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't think it'll be as like brutal. Like think about like, for instance, Blood and Cheese. You don't see a lot of like the graphic violence. I think that's more or less what we're kind of see. Do you see Cersei killing the Tyrells and wins the same way she did on the show? I don't think so, and the only reason I say that is because young Griff is already in proximity near King's Landing. And so I could see that it's something different, like Cersei does wildfire to try and prevent young Griff, and that maybe could indirectly maybe kill the Tyrells or something like that. I don't see it playing out the same way, though. Like I talked about Radical, I think like the Fall of Arnor would be really cool, but that would be a show. I don't think that could be done as a movie. That'd be really difficult to do in a movie. Maybe like a set of movies, like a trilogy type system, you could do that. I think that would be really cool to do. I think you could also even do like because they're kind of doing it in Rings of Power, but it doesn't really make sense in Rings of Power. Is you could do like the Fall of Moria. That would be really cool as well. I think a really awesome, if you wanted to do a really awesome horror film with Lord of the Rings, do a horror film of Balin's expedition in Moria. Like think about how like spooky that could be. Like you're trapped in Moria, you cannot get out, and no matter what you do, no matter how long you fight, the end result is the same, and you know that going into the film. Like that would be so cool. That would be so cool. Well, Stannis burn Shireen. George has basically confirmed that that's going to happen at some point. I made a whole video about that idea, but it would seem that it would have to occur like after Stannis deals with the Battle of Ice and he defeats the Boltons. It may be some sort of sacrifice as the others are coming. That could be something I could see, because the problem right now is Shireen's at the wall and Stannis is nowhere near the wall in the middle of a storm. So, the Tolkien family wouldn't sell the rights to Amazon. I don't blame them, seeing what they do to Tolkien's work. Agreed, Mats. Like, there's the Battle for Middle Earth. Basically, the DLC covers kind of the Agmar like conquest or whatever. They do a really good job. I would just take a lot of inspiration from that. That's all I'm saying. You think Dunk and Egg will be written like Game of Thrones, or will it be like House of the Dragon, or will it be its own tone and pace? Again, Dunk and Egg is just vastly different from Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. So if people start comparing those two shows to Dunk and Egg, they just don't understand the story. Dunk and Egg has nothing to do with like the big politics of the world and claiming the throne and all this stuff. It's more about the small folk. It's about the everyday person. It's about, you know, Dunk and his journeys of trying to find some place in the world, right, where he's able to actually have some sort of a home and be able to feed himself, and some of the struggles that he runs into. They should remake The Hobbit, but actually make it good. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Like, personally, like, I think The Hobbit is so weird because I think the first movie is good. I actually do like the first Hobbit movie. But yeah, the next two, not so good. I wonder who the main POV will be in King's Landing and wins. Cersei is stripper from power, or stripped from power, I think is what you meant to say. And the Tyrells never had any POVs. Kevin is dead, and there are no other Lannisters around. Yes. I think Cersei, if you're talking about King's Landing, I think Cersei will be the main POV until Jon Con gets there, or Arianne gets there. Hi, Dakota. How are you? Yeah, Ruckus, that's kind of the issue with kind of doing Tolkien's work, is a lot of these conflicts span years and years and years. It's really hard to condense those things into a story, and that's what I think Rings of Power figured out. Something I think that would be really cool would be a story centered around Glorfindel. I think that would be really cool. Not like around the main story. Well, I guess you could do that too. Like you can make your own like story about the war in the North during like the Battle for Middle Earth and all that stuff. I think the story with Glorfindel would be really cool. Joey, I could definitely see that happening with Bran. Pension? Not sure on that one. Children of Hern is the best Lord of the Rings book. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I always am a classic just Fellowship of the Ring guy, but I don't know. Have a good rest of the stream. See you all next time. Chrissy, thank you for stopping in. Do you think Daron the Drunken will further the whole prophecy angle in a similar way to the House of the Dragon obsession? I'm afraid they will do that for some reason. Mats, I think if they're going to try to do that and do that sort of connection, it will be through the character of Daron, and I honestly do expect to see something like that. Hopefully, it doesn't become the whole focus of the show. Like season 1 had elements of those things, and I didn't mind it because it wasn't the focus of the actual show. But we'll see what they end up doing. I definitely think they could. Um, do you think we see Ramsay after the Battle of Ice, or will he be killed off page? No, I think we'll see him after the Battle of Ice. Okay, I can't scroll. I can't scroll in chat right now. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Do you think the last two Hobbit movies were bad because Peter Jackson didn't want to direct it? Well, there's a number of things, right, Joey? So one thing is that Peter Jackson originally was not supposed to direct the Hobbit movies like you talked about. So that's one, I think. Two, the pre-production for the actual show was all being produced for a different director. And then after all of like a year, I think a year and a half amount of work was done, that director backed out. And so now you have a bunch of stuff that doesn't fit Peter Jackson's vision because it was another director's, and Peter Jackson had to step in to be the director. So you had issues in terms of the production and the pre-production, specifically building sets, doing all that stuff was super behind. They were building things as they were filming, right? The actual time crunch of getting those movies out was incredible, right? It's a miracle those movies even came out, the last two specifically. So you had that problem. The product was being rushed. There was no like clear vision because Peter Jackson was supposed to be like a producer, not supposed to be the actual director. And so I think it's a lot of, okay, Peter Jackson under a ton of stress. They were underprepared. It wasn't like Lord of the Rings, where Lord of the Rings, you had all of that vision. The pre-production was all there for Peter Jackson to like start with. And then also I think it's part of it's also that the actual people behind it, the funding, wanted it to be a trilogy similar to Lord of the Rings. Well, how do you do that? The Hobbit is one book. It's like the length of the first, book as well for the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. How do you expand that into 3 movies, right? It just didn't need to be. I think 2 movies made sense, right? I think 2 movies made sense. I think 1 movie would have been too cramped. I think 2 movies would have been perfect. And so I think there's a lot of issues with the Hobbit movies. There's a lot of issues that I think that were out of Peter Jackson's control, but then there are also issues in terms of the actual vision of the actual movies. I think Roose will probably be killed by Stannis. He'll be executed for his crimes. Yeah, that would be really cool as well, Matthew. About the conflict with like the dragons and the dwarves, and many of the wars between the dwarves and the orcs would be really cool as well. Will we see a Red Wedding 2.0 with Lady Stoneheart and the Brotherhood? I do believe so. I think everything's pointing that way, right? We see that in kind of Jaime's POV, where they have the Brotherhood Without Banners have basically infiltrated, the Frey camp more or less. It seems to all be leading to that idea, right? Now with Jaime and Brienne as prisoners, I think that makes sense. I think it's a logical like movement of where that plot has been going, right? This intense violence that is going to be just incredibly horrible to probably read because it's a slaughter of just innocent people. Some of them are guilty of crimes, but other people are just servants, this or that. I think it probably will happen. Hi, Maz. How are you? Any hope for a more accurate animated A Song of Ice and Fire after the book releases? Thoughts? I think that would be really cool, Mike. If we get down the road, like let's say Winds of Winter is released next year, I think that's been my estimate in the past. But as time goes on, it doesn't look like a great estimate. But let's say it's released next year. And then let's say Dream of Spring, if we're lucky, gets released 5 years after. So let's say by 2030, right? The books are done. That would be when did Game of Thrones end? When did season 8 come out? Was it like 2018, 2019 maybe? When did it end? It ended in 2019. Okay. So yeah, that'd be 11 years after it initially ended. I think it'd be really cool if we did get an animated series if the actual book's finished. If the House of the Dragon writers want to keep the Alicent Rhaenyra conversations going for another season, it would make sense for Alicent to stay in King's Landing and be imprisoned like she was in the book, in my opinion. I agree. I think if they want to keep making those two characters the main focus of the show. That's how you do it. Now, I don't understand why you would want that, because it feels like we've gone in circles, right? The characters haven't really been allowed to breathe or grow, to have meaningful conversations. And so, yeah, I don't know at this point. You're right, Grease, but I feel like these showrunners always have the urge to tie in these series and revolve around it rather than making it its own story. Ryan Connell is executive producer for Dunkin' Egg. Yeah, that's why I kind of think like we will have some of it, just hopefully it isn't dominating the story. Like, because the prophecy stuff has now completely become the main focus of House of the Dragon, and that's never what the dance was about in the book. Dance in the book was about, two different sides of a family with horrible people on both sides committing war crimes, doing terrible actions that affect the innocents, children, small folk, people that are just trying to make a living. And here you have a dragon roasting your entire town. And they've changed that. They've changed the entire message of the dance. And I think that would be a huge problem for George as well. And we'll see his thoughts probably later on. Mats, I've talked about this in lengths. If you wanted to have a meaningful resolution to Alicent and Rhaenyra, why wouldn't you just let the two grow as characters in their own season and then bring them back at either the finale of season 2 or into season 3? Those two characters would be vastly different. So that conversation would be so interesting, because you think about all the things that they've gone through, all the things that they might be blaming the other person about. If you even look at the things that happened in season 2, right? You look at, Alicent seems to, approve of Rhaenyra becoming queen in episode 8. She immediately flips. Well, why did that happen, right? Rhaenyra should be, very bitter towards Alicent because of that. Next, Luke dies. Okay, that's another huge thing that Rhaenyra is going, okay, Alicent can't control her son. She allowed her son to do that, right? And then on the other side, right, you have Alicent, who loses a grandchild to Rhaenyra's, family, her husband. You should be blaming him. And so there should be this bitterness, so that by the time the two characters meet, in the end of season 2, or more likely in season 3, there would actually be things to talk about. There would be things that the two characters would disagree on. There would be this, breaking of that foundation, because people in their family have been affected by their relationship and how sour it's become. It just wasn't written correctly, right? It didn't have that natural way of storytelling, right? Where you build up and then you kind of have a plateau, your climax, and then your falling action, right? It didn't have that, natural arc of a story. And a lot of that's mostly season 2 to begin with. There's just fundamental basic writing that is lacking in season 2. The Hobbit book is even shorter than The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which makes the decision to make The Hobbit into 3 movies even more baffling. Agreed. And this is the thing that really is weird to me, because the original thought process behind the Hobbit movies was the first movie would tell the majority of the actual Hobbit story with Bilbo and the dwarves. The second movie was going to really focus on, yes, it's still part of that, right? You still have the Battle of the Five Armies, stuff like that, but the second movie was going to be more about the idea of Sauron growing into power, him being an Dol Guldur, and kind of like the council stuff, right? That was what that was supposed to be like in movie 2, right? So each movie would have its own distinct idea of what it was doing, but they unfortunately did not do that well. Yeah, the forced romance in The Hobbit was pretty bad. It wasn't the actors had no chemistry at all, in my opinion. The dialogue was pretty flat, but yeah. What do you think Jon's Targaryen name would be, assuming he was given one? That's an interesting one. I do really like the idea that he was named Jaehaerys, but I also think something like Viserys could make sense, because given that I can't speak. Rhaegar wanted the 3 heads of the dragon, right? He names one of his sons Aegon. He names one of them Rhaenys. Well, he doesn't name anyone Visenya, so it could make sense that he would be named like Viserys, like the male version of that name. I think that could make sense. Hi, PK. How are you? I think Aemon would be a good name as well. Maegor would be a cool name. Ruckus, you're probably going to like a video that's coming out this week. I have a video on Maegor coming out. basically on that exact idea of him being underrated. So, you know. Matt's, we are thinking basically on the same wavelength. Also, hi Ashley. I know I'm behind chat because I saw you on like the actual like overhead thing, like what you guys are seeing. And yeah, how are you? Grease, who is one character you think literally everyone loves? Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. So, okay. That is a tough one. Because I don't think there is one character that everybody loves. Because right off the bat, the person that comes to mind, or the couple of people that come to mind, are like the main people, right? So Daenerys, you know, Jon, Tyrion. But I know a lot of people that don't like Daenerys. I know people that don't like Jon Snow. I know people that don't like Tyrion. That's a really tough question. I think I have an easy answer. Hot pie. Nobody hates hot pie. I'm just saying, like, nobody actually hates hot pie. So my answer is hot pie. I thought of that one on the flash, but I'm going to say hot pie. I was thinking about Samwell as well, but you guys hated on him a ton when we did the attractive list. That's all I'm saying. We should have gotten Sarah Snow and Jace's relationship since nothing happened all season. Ruckus, I think that would have gone a long way of showing Jace's insecurities of being a bastard. I think that would have been great. Is there math or strategy behind HBO only orders 8 to 10 episodes for these expansive stories? Probably just budget, like just money, right? It takes a lot of money to produce like 20 episodes, for instance. But yeah, it's easier to produce 8 episodes than like 10 or 12 or 14, 15, whatever you want to do. How long do you think Aegon will survive into the next book? Somewhere in the Winds of Winter? No, so I think Aegon dies to probably Daenerys. And I think that's going to happen probably middle to, depending on where George structures the others' conflict. Like in the show, they went with, okay, the others are the first half of season 2 or season 8, and then the like throne is the second half. Depends on what way George wants to go about that, but I think Young Griff probably dies middle of A Dance of, or Dream of Spring. I have a question about the House of the Dragon books. Were there many time skips in those? Yeah, like you would know when like time passed. There are time skips, yeah. Like there's just years where things don't happen, right? You know, if you're looking at like early Rhaenyra and Alicent and or I guess I should say early Rhaenyra, right? As she's growing up, you then have a time skip to a little bit later. It's similar to kind of how they do it in the show, but it's a lot more digestible in my opinion. The war feels non-existent in House. It's like a drama with Alice Rhaenyra. Yeah, Joey, and like think about like season 2 of Game of Thrones. We don't see any battle really outside of the Blackwater. Like we see like maybe the beginnings of battles or ending of battles in season 2, but we don't truly see any battles outside of the Blackwater. But yet you understand that the country is at war, right? You see Renly and Stannis because Stannis is sieging Storm's End. You know, we see Robb and his campaign in the West. We see, you know, Harrenhal and kind of the stuff going on there, the war that you can see is going there. So you get the atmosphere that the whole country is at war. House of the Dragon, I don't think has done a good job of that, right? The only real like battle we see, which is fine, is Rook's Rest. And then we see like, yeah, it's like Cole has some little thing going on, and then there was a little skirmish between the Blackwoods and Brackens, but outside of that, the war seems like, or the world seems like there is no war going on at all. So I do think that's a legitimate criticism. I don't think Euron is the third head of the dragon, Mike. I don't know. I do not. I think it's an interesting theory, though. Allison's character was ruined by her mission in Blood and Cheese, because in the book it shows she actually is a caring mother. I do agree. I think Alicent not being present at Blood and Cheese was a disservice to that moment. It wasted some of the potential. Stannis could be the third head of the dragon. He does have Targaryen blood, but I don't think so, though. Do you think there was a deeper meaning in having in Bloodraven House of Dragon, or was it just key jangling teaser for Dunk and Egg? I think it was a complete teaser for Dunk and Egg. I believe that was the case. Because actually, if you look at it trying to connect to Game of Thrones, it doesn't make any sense, because Bloodraven wasn't in Game of Thrones. I don't like the theory that Jaime and Cersei are actually the Mad Kings. I don't really like that theory at all. And the thing on Joffrey being a psycho is multiple factors. One, he's born of incest. One, he doesn't have really a father figure at all. And his mother, like, babies him, lets him be a psychopath and all this stuff. So I don't personally like that, because I think it takes away from the Jaime, Cersei, Joffrey characters. Maz, this is my point exactly. My favorite time period outside of like the main story is the dance. And it's not because it has anything to do with Game of Thrones or the main story. It's because it's an incredible story in and of itself, right? The horror, the atrocities that happen. It's just, you're on this roller coaster when you read the dance in Fire and Blood, and that's why I love it so much, right? Because you go from a Jaehaerys to Viserys reign, where a lot of peacetime, it's a lot of building up of the actual country, and here comes this war to tear it all down, right? I think it's great the way that that's written and how it's done. It just, you do just some weird stuff in House of the Dragon that just is not great. Do you think we will see another George R. R. Martin caliber fantasy writer in our lifetime? It seems unlike with how few culturally relevant fantasy series are ongoing. That's a great point. I don't think, like, I mean, I think we will, right? I want to be positive, right? Like, in my lifetime, let's say I live to like 75. I don't know. That's 50 years. Like, that's a lot of time for somebody to really make something great. Now I will say, right, there haven't been like any real incredible like pieces of writing that have come out, in my opinion, of new writers, new stories in fantasy anyway, in like the last 10 years that I've really been invested in, or I've seen really become really popular. So I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting idea. Hodor. Everyone loves Hodor. Everyone except, I think, Dakota, though, because Dakota doesn't like the Starks and Hodor is their servant. So, do you think Maegor was cursed or just super infertile? I think he was just infertile. Incest has a lot of bad genetic qualities on people. Aegon himself seems to probably struggled with having kids. Think about how many years he was with Rhaenys and Visenya, and I know he marries Visenya out of duty, and he probably didn't sleep with her much. But still, he only had one kid with Rhaenys, who he was really close with. That's really weird to me. And even you look at Visenya, right? And both of their kids, right? Aenys and Maegor, there are possibilities that those kids weren't even Aegon's. So I don't know. I do think it's interesting, and you see there throughout all the Targaryens, they have issues with birthing children. Oh yeah, that's another one. Davos is a good one. I'm so far behind on chat. But guys, I will say, I'm going to stay live probably another 10, 15 minutes, but my voice is starting to give out. So this probably will not be a longer stream. I wonder if Lyanna picked John's Targaryen name, or if Rhaegar picked it. That might make a difference. Yeah, Ashley. It's weird because I think if Rhaegar picked it, it probably is something like either Viserys or like Aegon or something like that. But if Lyanna picked it, I think it'd be even way different. Hot Pie was not nice in the beginning, but he had a character arc, and he ended up to be a good little baker boy. Tywin is more self-serving. He is not family-serving at all, right? He's self-serving to establish his own legacy so that he'll be remembered after he dies, right? He wants everything for himself, and he makes that quite apparent. Him remarrying was beneficial to his family, but does he ever do it? No. I 100% agree with Tyrion that Tywin never does anything really in the interest of the family. He does it in the interest of himself. Aegor, he will be king. I agree. Yeah, Ashley, definitely agree. We should have seen more of Jace's like feelings. I feel like in season 2, especially given that he's not going to be in the show that much longer. You think there's a character that no one likes? Ooh, I would say Quentin, but there's a lot of freaks in the chat. See, I would say Joffrey, but I feel like there are also people that are Joffrey sympathizers. Like, I think this is harder than even the question of, like, who does everybody like? Nobody likes Balon Greyjoy. There we go, Balon. Nobody likes Balon Greyjoy. You cannot find me a single person that likes Balon. Mats, even if, okay, Rhaegar and Lyanna were in love, whatever, they are still idiots. They could have stopped the war at so many different points. They just completely just did not handle the war at all. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you can look at Rhaegar and Lyanna and go, yeah, these guys are really, like, cool. And it's like, no. They caused the killing of thousands of people. Innocent children were killed because of Rhaegar being a little, like, lusty and wanting another kid because his wife couldn't have a kid. Why do you think Samuel is still fat even after all the walking and starving and fighting and training he's done? I don't have an answer for that, if you want me to be honest. I really don't know. Maybe he's sneaking food. Maybe he's sneaking food. And we're just not being told on page. I do not think Euron will get a dragon mice. Mike, I don't think so. Do you think the Starks would support Rhaenyra or Aegon? Well, PK. Little, I guess, nod to what actually happens. The Starks do support Rhaenyra, so there's your answer. I think he was an extremely flawed individual. I won't say he was like a horrible guy necessarily, but he is someone that was very, like, misguided. He abused his wife mentally and physically. He was a drunk. He was a bad father. I think he was someone that had the chance to be a good person, but because of the situation that he put himself in, he was never really that happy of an individual, and that caused him to do pretty bad things, and that leads to a war because of his stupidity. So I would say he's a flawed person. I don't think he's good or bad. Okay, chat, let's have a fun debate. Was the Targaryen dynasty a net benefit to Westeros or no? Ooh, this is a good one. Okay. So, right off the bat, the Targaryens, in my opinion, brought together a country that was warring with itself constantly. Before the Targaryens came, there were wars between families all the time, right? The Brackens and Blackwoods going at it pretty much like every other year, right? So I think the Targaryens in the long run brought the realm together and stopped all of these small proxy wars, all these things that are continuing to happen throughout the country. And they also built the infrastructure of the country, right? They built the roads. They helped make it more of a not barbaric land. So I would say it was a net good, but I can understand why you'd say it was not, because there are a lot of wars, civil wars that happened that caused a lot of death. But I would argue there was a lot of death happening even more before the Targaryens came over. I agree, Mass. I don't think, like, I think what we should have seen is, like, maybe Daemon hiring Blood and Cheese, but then we don't actually, like, see him. Or we don't see them sneaking into King's Landing. Or maybe we see a little bit. But then we have basically Alicent's POV. Hannibal, I think it is very possible that Strong's are related to the Starks. They have a lot of features that are quite similar. Dakota loves Hodor. Okay, Hodor is a winner. Everyone loves Old Nan. Yeah, okay. I can get behind that one as well. Do you think George just got lazy with writing wins, or is he genuinely struggling to finish plots? I think it's both. I think it's you come into fame, there's a lot more pleasantries, right? You have just more things at your disposal. You know, being able to do things that you always wanted to do as a young person, now you have those opportunities to do that, right? So let's say, George, when he was, his early 20s, maybe he always wanted to write a movie. Maybe he always wanted to write a show. Maybe he wanted to write a video game, or maybe he wanted to go this place or go there and go do that. He has all those opportunities now. And so it's a mix of a lot more distractions, a lot more things that George can do that he wants to do before he dies. It's a mix of the story is just so big. There's so many plot lines. They all need to be condensed down into like one or two or three plots, like the first book. But how do you do that when you have way more characters now? It's the fact that there's an insane amount of pressure because he's put off finishing the book for so many years that now everybody is expecting this fantastic book. And if it's not that, he's going to probably get crucified. Even if he releases it and it's like really good, right? Like if it's really good, people will still hate on him probably. Like he is in a no-win situation right now, in my opinion. And so I think he's struggling with a lot of those issues. And as you get older, your body starts to break down. And I am 24 years old. So I don't exactly have the natural, like how you age, because I already have arthritis. I already have issues with my back. I already, I have health issues already. But now take that into somebody like George, who's, in his 70s, he's not the healthiest person. It becomes much harder to work for hours and hours and hours to try and finish that book. So I think it's a lot of different things. PK, personally, I like the dance more. I think Robert's Rebellion it's good, right? It's good. I think there's just more twists and turns that you have in the dance, right? You have so many different times where the shifting of power happens, right? Whereas like the Robert's Rebellion is very straightforward. It's the Targaryens start out at the top, and as each like day goes by, they make mistake and mistake. So it starts out the war being like, let's say 90% of the Targaryens should win. And after each day, after each battle, it goes from 90 to 80 to 70 to 60 until it flips, until Robert now is the one going up and up and up. I do think there is a chance we could get more Dunk and Egg stuff because I think it probably is easier for George to write than wins. I definitely think we could get some Dunk and Egg stuff. Ned picked his name because Ashara wasn't around. Yeah, she's probably off being irrelevant. Man, I love talking shit on Ashara. I don't know why. Ashara doesn't even deserve to get the hate, but she has to. She's got to endure it. I think the whole story would have been different if Lyanna survived the childbirth. Yes. I don't think Jon then would have gone with Ned. I think Lyanna and her child probably would have been like hidden with Howland Reed. Edric Dane is the son of Darkstar and Ned. Ruckus, I don't know how that works because two men can't create a child, so I don't know how that one works, but yeah. See, I also, Ashley, I like the idea that Visenya took the succession into her own hands, right? Aenys is born, right? He's very sickly until he gets his dragon. And then, his mother dies. Aenys' mother dies, and he becomes, once again, pretty weak, right? He starts reverting, literally. Like, he starts crawling and stuff like that, instead of walking at, like, 3 years old. I see that there's a definite possibility where Visenya might have approached Aegon and said, we got to do something about this. Your line is very insecure right now. So maybe that's what allowed the two to sleep together, even though they disliked each other and have Maegor. Maybe it was Visenya using sorcery to conceive Maegor. Like something like very weird as in like Dragon Age, like with how the plot goes like Morgan at the very end. Something like that could be, where that comes from. Maybe Visenya just slept with another dude. Who knows? Matthew, Dunk might be a player. You know, we're seeing the early Dunk, right, where he's still not look like confident with women. We don't know what he did in his later years. Yeah, Ainies, I agree, Ghost. Like, Ainies was somebody that seems like he would have been great to go out and, you know, talk with, like have a beer with or whatever. Magor seems like the guy that would not have been so much. He would not, he's more intense. He's more like, I'm here for business type of guy. Everybody hates Craster. Yeah, that's fair. Joey, because Tywin is selfish and didn't want to actually do what he says he wants to do, that he forces everybody else in these marriages, but he does himself didn't want to get another marriage because he loved his cousin so much. Or his wife, I should say. I mean, it's her cousin, but it is her wife. Yeah, you guys get it. It's all weird. Yeah, that's all I'll say. Matt's, I do think so now. Like as we're seeing stuff come out about George R. R. Martin, I definitely think that is the case. That he has a lot of serious issues with House of the Dragon. Unfortunately, I think Myrcella is going to be killed by the Sand Snakes. Yeah, I think it would be another cool like miniseries with the Kingswood Brotherhood. That'd be really cool. Ditto as well. There's so many like cool things you could do with A Song of Ice and Fire. And that's what's so frustrating about shows like House of the Dragon, is because if those shows don't succeed, you're never going to get stories like that. Like, there's just limitless possibilities of things they could do. So I've talked about this a lot. Octavians. I tried. I've talked about this a lot. House of the Dragon is its own canon. It's not really Game of Thrones canon because it's already kind of screwed that up, right? Like, Bloodraven isn't the person that Bran sees in the cave. And so that kind of messes around with what happens in House of the Dragon, the prophecy stuff. And also, the prophecy stuff and the dream stuff never worked like it did in Game of Thrones. So I think House of the Dragon's like its own canon. It's its own show, really. I think the White Walkers, there will be a crossing the wall end of Winds of Winter, like at the last quarter of it. Yes, Ghost, exactly. That's kind of the vibes it gives with Aegon and Visenya. Thank you for coming to the stream, Matthew. Have a good one. Do you think the Mad King was a dragon dreamer? I do think so. I do think. I'm just saying. Like, I want to make a video on this, but I don't know if I should or not. Like, do you guys think this would be a good video idea? I've thought about it. Like, if you think about all the Targaryens, are they really going mad, or are they plagued by dragon dreams and other things going on? I do like that idea. I really like that idea, because think about Daenerys. Daenerys, in the first book, she has a dragon dream and all this stuff, and directly afterwards, she feels like she's going mad. Other people around her view her as going mad. And now maybe, yes, this dream did help her and the dragons came back. But I do think like there is something there, right? I do think that those dreams have an effect on them. Think it's a good idea, Aegor? Okay. I might do it for next week. I got to still record the Samwell video. I wanted to give enough time for questions. If you do want to be a part of the video, and if you have any questions about Sam or Old Town and Winds of Winter, get those in by the end of the night, because I'll probably do that tomorrow after school. I'll have that video probably up probably tomorrow night. But yeah. Well, thank you guys all for joining the stream. I hope you all enjoyed. My voice is starting to hurt a little bit, so I'm gonna get off. Don't want to screw up my throat, and I hope you guys